Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating account of paranormal research from author Sonia Rinaldi. It documents this strange, persistent phenomenon that was captured on, of all things, a simple webcam.
So let's just start with a question that's right at the heart of this whole thing. What if a standard piece of tech, something you probably have on your desk right now, could actually be a window into something else?
So, picture this. It's September 2024, and the author starts seeing these mysterious, concentric rings just appear on her screen. And we're not talking about a recording error or some playback glitch. No, these were showing up live, in real time, captured by a totally normal webcam.
Okay, so we've got these strange rings popping up live on camera. But what were they exactly? Let's break down this anomaly and see why it grabbed the researchers' attention so intensely.
The first thing you have to get is that this wasn't just random visual noise. The author describes them as structured, persistent rings that would literally just appear from nowhere, forming this really distinct oval shape right on the video feed.
But here's where it gets really weird. It wasn't just that these rings appeared out of thin air, it was how they behaved. The researcher pretty quickly noticed they were acting like more than just a simple glitch. They actually seemed intelligent.
And this is where all the little clues start to build a case for something truly unusual. You know, they didn't just sit there, they had these internal moving waves of energy. And most bizarrely, they showed what the author calls intelligent behavior.
Now get this, that intelligent tracking, that's the real kicker here. When the author would move her head, the rings would move right along with her, actively keeping her face centered in the frame. This wasn't some static camera artifact, it was dynamic, it was responsive, and it led the author to a pretty extraordinary hypothesis.
So yeah, that responsive tracking, that was the big turning point. It suggested that maybe the rings weren't a glitch in our reality, but maybe an intersection with another one. And this is the moment a weird observation starts to become a hypothesis about mixing realities.
And this is the big question, right? The author is basically asking, are we just looking at a weird camera effect, or are we literally witnessing two realities mixing together through the lens of a webcam? This question shifts the whole investigation firmly into the realm of the paranormal. So how on earth do you even begin to explain the idea of mixing realities? Well, the author puts forward this fascinating theory. What if the rings are a kind of wormhole between worlds? And to get there, she draws on ideas from both spiritualism and, believe it or not, theoretical physics.
Okay, first things first, let's get a key term down. It's called an apport. In the world of spiritualism, it's basically any object that just materializes out of thin air, like it's been brought from some other place. So the author is wondering, could these rings be a kind of visual apport?
And then she links that idea to a concept you might have heard of from physics, the wormhole. You know, a theoretical bridge or shortcut connecting two separate points in spacetime. The thinking is, if an apport is an object arriving from somewhere else, maybe a wormhole is the road it takes to get here.
And this brings us to the core idea, captured in this quote. The author is suggesting that these rings aren't just on the screen. They might be a visual sign of a hole, a tear in our space-time, a portal that something from the other side can use to interfere with our reality.
Now, a theory that huge needs some evidence, right? So to test whether two separate realities were actually coexisting in the same frame, the author designed a really simple but honestly a brilliant little experiment.
The setup couldn't be simpler. An ordinary clock was just placed on a box behind the researcher, so it was clearly visible in the webcam shot. The goal was simple. Just watch and see how the rings interacted with a real physical object in the same room.
And the result? Whoa, it was startling. As the author moved, the rings followed her and passed directly in front of the clock. Now stop and think about that for a second. The clock is physically behind her in the room, yet these rings on the screen somehow passed in front of it, blocking it from view. It's like the rings existed on a totally different spatial plane.
The author's interpretation of this is pretty profound. She basically concludes that this isn't a camera trick, but it's evidence that some external intelligence, the other side, is manipulating a specific oval of space-time and superimposing it over our reality, making it visible through the camera.
And that leads us right to the final, absolutely mind-bending thought that this research leaves us with. After all the observation, all the experimentation, the ultimate question is still there. Could these rings literally be the mouth of a wormhole, a direct portal between worlds captured by a webcam? Now that is something to chew on.